Attorney, you mentioned the pandemic, human rights in the pandemic. Does the CHR have any position on mandatory vaccination and on limiting the mobility of people who are not yet fully vaccinated?
Well, there's no direct answer to that issue. It's quite complicated. Well, first of all, we do advocate for vaccines for all. No one should be left behind. That is the real remedy to the pandemic that we face right now. However, we also do realize that there is legal basis for requiring vaccines for the people if the government uses its police power. However, before it imposes its police power and makes it mandatory, the question that has to be answered by the government is that, is it actually available in sufficient number and quality, and is it accessible to all? Because it would be unfair for the public at large if, for example, they are prohibited from going to places or from accessing public services or even from having work. If, for example, those vaccines are not really available to them. And then if, for example, we reach that point where vaccines are sufficient in quantity and quality and is accessible, then there must be exceptions to the general rule. We must be mindful that there may be some medical reasons which will hinder people from getting vaccinated. There might be religious or cultural reasons that we have to take into consideration. But eventually, we do want everyone to be vaccinated because rights come with obligation. So it's not only the right to protect ourselves, but also to protect others from COVID-19.
What about restricting the mobility of the unvaccinated?
Only if we have already a sufficient number and quality of vaccines can we do that. And we do hope, again, that there will be exceptions to those rules. We have to employ a humanitarian approach. There's no hard and fast rule when it comes to the issue of vaccination.
Oh, so you mean to say that in the matter of vaccines, that being an anti-vaxxer may not be something that the CHR will support? I mean, isn't that a legitimate choice? I mean, it's not necessarily immoral.
Yes, Luchi, on an individual level, any person can actually decide on his or her own whether they want to be vaccinated. But of course, say for example, you want to access certain places, then if it happens to be private, then the private company can actually impose that. And then it will be your choice whether you want to go in or whether you want to go inside that establishment. Chair Chito, I remember in the last budget hearing, likened it to a driver's license. No, so in that regard, it's actually something that you can access on your own voluntarily. But of course, because it protects public interest, then it's something that you choose to or not choose to, but it has its intended consequences.
Well, what about the reason that anti-vaxxers usually have, that they don't trust the vaccines? It's as simple as that.
Yes,
it's a lack of trust in the safety of the vaccines.
We do respect those opinions. It's their body, and they have the right not to be injected ultimately. But of course, it would have consequences in terms of their accessing some public services provided by the government.